I want to just backtrack to this question around meaningful economic participation, and you raised it, and it's part of that key point around moving from thinking about a series of disadvantage to something more future looking. Now, I can walk into the head offices of most companies and I can pick up a shiny annual report or a sustainability report, and many of them will faithfully report on percentage of employees who are Aboriginal, percentages of procurement or local businesses where they've sourced from local Aboriginal businesses. And then it tends to kind of stop there. So what's the difference between that and economic participation? Because I think there's one is often mistaken for the other.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, because often it's looked at what can a business or a sector do for Aboriginal people, as opposed to where do we as Aboriginal people want to be in terms of the economy. Now, this goes to something which we looked at in the, God, I think it was the 2007-8 era, and now extrapolated in Victoria, we're about to develop our second Aboriginal economic strategy. But it was fundamentally Aboriginal people looked at solely through the lens of social policy. And social policy usually applies to social problems. And it's about fixing social problems, or as I said earlier, it's about making sure things don't get worse. So that can be health, that can be education, that can be well-being, all of those type of things, justice, so on and so forth. But fundamentally, Australia as a society can be broken into huge, big pillars when you look at it through the eyes of government and how it thinks and how it works the world out. Social policy and economic policy. And all the eggs in the basket, or most of them, had been in the social policy basket when it came to Aboriginal stuff. What we hadn't done was look at the economy, and the question being asked, how do we use the economy to address issues of Aboriginal social disadvantage? And it wasn't based on giving a person a job, because if that's all you do, then you'll still be in the same problem, because you have to do everything, as I said. But the idea of Aboriginal economic participation, and it's a very fundamental truth in our society, particularly as, you know, the sort of economy we're in, if you've got cash, the more cash you have, the less rubbish you have in your life, basically, because you can afford a roof over your head. You can put food on the table. You can send your kids to have a decent education and a better life than you had, but you need money to do that. I mean, that's breaking down economic wealth to its very basics. That people want a roof over their heads, a future for their kids, and food on the table. That's not too much to ask for. So then it became, and then that goes to, well, what is economic participation? Because it's no use giving Aboriginal people just a job, and if that's all we do, then where's the progress? Where's the opportunity to be better than the generations before, or have more security than the generations before, and ensure the future generations are set up from a better starting point than we are? So that's where thinking of the economy from the Aboriginal perspective is not about what companies can do for us, or not about what they do and how that might impact on us. It's about where do we want to be, and then how can they support us doing that? So when I see, you know, and I think it's a good thing. There's procurement, there's employment opportunity, but there's also Aboriginal people owning businesses, being employers. There's also that notion of the building of wealth for Aboriginal people. Wealth is not a bad thing. Wealth is a good thing, you know. Being well off doesn't make you a better Aboriginal person. It just means you have an ordinary life if you don't, right, you know. But if you've got the capacity to have a bit of wealth in your life, to build for the future, to save, to own capital, and by capital I mean a house. By capital I mean other things. Why should not we have that? That's what I mean by economic participation, is having all those things, and not just as individuals. Because as I said before, we're a community, we're a collective. It's about ensuring the whole of the Aboriginal community shares in that prosperity, is part of that economic uplift, because there's no point somebody doing that with everybody else down here. We've got to uplift everybody. So as Bill Clinton said apparently said in his 1992 election campaign, it's the economy, stupid. If we get Aboriginal participation in the economy as a happening thing, that will probably do more to alleviate Aboriginal disadvantage than all the social policy attempts since year